A very good morning. EURUSD pushed up higher yesterday above the overall daily swing high and then pushed back in towards the downside after news was released that Israel was attacking Iran and its nuclear facilities. Good morning, guys. Welcome back to another Daily Market Outlook. My name is Fabio and we're going to have a look at the major dollar pairs and of course gold. Now, I want to start off with first saying that yesterday I received some hate, guys, on my overall dollar buys, saying that there was potential for EURUSD shorts. Now, I understand that this might have not seemed the most, let's say, straightforward analysis and maybe a little bit outside of your box, but at all times did I do repeat that we had overall daily fractal structure that was bullish, and therefore shorts were a very, very tricky play. And especially yesterday, again, we saw the overall daily fractal structure play out and continue to push the market further in towards the upside. Now, obviously, at this point in time, after sweeping a daily swing high, there is potential for a pullback to take place. Now, the overall pullback should preferably take place in towards that overall sub for the buy, and then inside that overall sub for the buy, that is where you should be looking for a new potential long position. Overall, based on the daily fractal structure, the market should retrace as well to around the 0.5 fib, which until now it has approximately done, because preferably when you see a retracement, you want to see that 0.5 fib as a zone that the market reacts or interacts with. Now, this here is your area of demand, right? So this is the first area of demand. Then we have another area of demand over here in the sell for the buy candle. And then we have an even lower area of demand, which is again this area of demand over here. Now, myself, how do we know to understand, or how can we understand which area of demand could potentially push the market up higher, right? As long as the current fractal low here on the 4-hour is respected, and as long as the fractal low on the daily time frame is respected, longs from those zones should make sense. So what I personally do is I go in towards the 1-hour time frame and I try to identify the potential trade opportunity. Now, for now, the overall 1 hour is bearish in towards the downside. Here we have the overall buy before the sell acting as an area of supply. Here we now have a supply that is currently in control, and let's say again the market continues to push in towards the downside, I would preferably, let's say, want to see a sweep of these lows, and I want to see support forming right in one of those areas of demand. I want to see a change of character confirming that the overall demand zone is now ready to push the market up higher. Because if we, for example, now see on EURUSD a sweep of this low over here and then boom, straight away push back up, this is then, let's say, your fractal high, wait for that to break, we form demand, and then we can go long, for example. If we continue to push down lower, then we just wait for another fractal break, but then inside of this zone, and then we use these equal lows as liquidity. So that's preferably what I'm looking for at the moment here on EURUSD. Looking at the 15-minute time frame, we can see that for now the 50-minute order flow is still bullish. So we had very clear bearish order flow in towards the downside. Then what happened here is that we saw the change of character. So we broke this high, which broke this previous low. This then becomes your area of demand. Then this morning, again, we saw a double fractal break, with this now being your demand zone. And this has the potential to push the market up higher. Now, personally, I find the 50-minute a little bit too aggressive to trade off. So what I'm looking for is simply a 1-hour change of character. That's why I'm preferring one more push in towards the downside. And then we could potentially look for those longs, because look, I minimally need 1-hour confirmation. So I need the current fractal high here to break. But if that current fractal high breaks, you're already near a new higher high, which makes the overall risk to reward and the overall risk that you have inside of that long position a lot higher. So therefore, I'm waiting for a little bit more downside on EURUSD to take high probability longs. Otherwise, I'll personally stay out of any longs for now, just because it doesn't align with my entry model getting in at this level without the 1-hour change of character. Let's say the 1-hour change of character high was here and we broke that, then obviously I would have been happy to get into a long position back up in towards this higher high. So that's what I have for EURUSD. Obviously the dollar has been strong for once, actually, with the risk on or the risk off a bias coming through. Obviously there was a nuclear strike, again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, from Israel on Iran. Now, in recent weeks, it's interesting to see, because the dollar hasn't actually been acting as a safe haven until last night, where we saw those attacks. Now, what we saw was that after sweeping a weekly liquidity low, so again here we tapped into, what was it, 97,685. We tapped in towards that liquidity low. The market straight away pushed back in towards the upside. So from a weekly perspective, obviously we broke the fractal low here from last week. So the weekly fractal was bearish. The daily fractal is bearish. The daily overall swing and momentum is bearish. So I'm not looking for longs on the dollar just yet, guys, to confirm. This is now supply that is in control, and this is now the current fractal high that is in control. So at any point in time, is the dollar ready to continue pushing down lower from this overall buy before the sell? That is your area of supply. So how do we then know that the market is ready to continue to sell off? Well, obviously now on the 4-hour time frame, we've retraced into, let's say, this area of supply over here, which also lies within that daily area of supply. So on the 4-hour, there are two kind of like main areas of supply that I'm looking at. That's this supply zone and obviously this supply zone over here. And if the market retraces in towards there, you could look for a potential shorting opportunity. Now, how do we know that that shorting opportunity is ready? We go to the 1-hour time frame and we look for the confirmation. Now, on the 1-hour time frame here on the dollar, the fractal structure is still bearish, so I'm looking for those shorts. 50-minute structure is bearish, so it makes sense to look for that for the downside. Just keep in mind this low over here, and then this area of demand over here. These two things could cause one more push up, so make sure to watch your risk if you're trading the 15-minute time frame on the dollar pairs. That could act as an area of demand, but for now, it does look good to continue pushing in towards the downside for the immediate future. But the highest probability trade will obviously come if the dollar pushes up higher and retraces in towards these extreme areas of supply. Because taking a short here, based on the 50-minute change of character, is a very aggressive entry. Now moving on into AUDUSD. AUDUSD sold off yesterday, obviously with the risk on pairs such as the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar taking a massive hit with those airstrikes. So obviously that is good for gold, good for oil, but very bad for the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar. So the Australian dollar overall pushed down lower. Again, it kind of is in line with what I've been saying about the Australian dollar against the US dollar. Very consolidative, very ascending and slow, very manipulative as well. So I mentioned that we had kind of like these ascending lows. We have taken out these lows at least yesterday, which is nice to see. But overall, the bigger swing in towards the downside on AUDUSD should for myself come once we take out at least that X liquidity high over there. Until we have not yet taken out that high, I'm not very interested in shorts, but I will keep an eye to see how the market reacts to this area of supply over here, because we can see that that area is a very strong area of support and resistance. So support and resistance, I'm kind of like referring to this specific level that we have over here. But we'll have to see what the developments are around the US dollar, because if the US dollar obviously weakens in line with what we saw on the dollar index, that should push Australian dollar against the US dollar up higher. Because fundamentally the Australian dollar is good, just geopolitically it's taken a hit last night. Going into pound dollar sold off beautifully last night. Obviously looking here at the daily time frame, I've discussed this one on the live stream, so if you have not yet checked that live stream, I'll add a link in the description of this video or in the comment section of this video. So yesterday I mentioned that here we had the break of structure. This here is your, let's say, your swing. Now we're trading at a premium price. So therefore, after the break of structure, what you look for a potential pullback. When do you look for the pullback? You look for the pullback when you get a change of character. Now, this initial short position that I had over here definitely played out very, very well. There was a lot of profits to be made in this initial overall swing down of around 150 pips because we grabbed liquidity one and then we saw a 4-hour change of character as well, which happened over here. So we saw the 4-hour change of character, and then from that supply zone, there were definitely some really good sells to be taken to take out at least the ascending lows, which then fueled the next move up. But now what I like about GBPUSD, and again guys, sorry if I'm mentioning anything about short positions, but what I really like about GBPUSD is the fact that we have the 1, we have the 2, and now we have the third high. So this is a very, very classic correction pattern where we have an ascending channel with the 1 high, the 2 high, the third high. We've seen the initial 4-hour change of character. So this is now your 4-hour area of supply. So I'm now interested to look for a potential shorting opportunity from that area of supply. Now, obviously, we'll need to wait for confirmation inside that supply zone. So again, don't say, Fabio, GBPUSD shoots like a rocket in towards the upside. Obviously, guys, if price comes into my area of interest, I will always wait for confirmation before getting into that specific position, okay? So it's not like I'm just selling this thing and then my stop loss gets hit and I cry. guys, we wait for the market to come into that area of supply and then, for example, manipulate, because there's no clear liquidation in the overall push down. So it needs to give us like an initial reaction, push back up, and then you wait for like the change of character, and then you have like the confirmation that this supply zone is actually ready to push the market down lower. So I'm not going to be entering unless we see some real good confirmation within that overall supply zone, okay? We're taking out all of these descending highs. We have this 50-minute supply zone and we have this 50-minute supply zone. So you can also just wait for the 50-minute confirmation inside that zone. And then let's say the 4-hour breaks the fractal high again, then obviously you won't be interested in those shorts anymore. But overall, I do like what I'm seeing from GBPUSD. The only thing is obviously that we don't have a daily bearish fractal and that the daily demand is pretty much this. So that is kind of like against the overall short that you then want to take. So if you're not a fan of taking those shorts, then obviously don't. But I do see kind of like a short-term opportunity from that 4-hour area of supply. But let's have a look at how the market reacts, because overall, obviously we can just continue up higher with the overall, let's say, daily order flow. And then what I'll be doing is that once the 4-hour fractal high breaks again, which is this fractal high, then I'll be interested in looking for longs once again. NZDUSD, we can see that NU also took a big hit yesterday. Overall, again, a pair that I'm not really trading due to the overall messy price action that we've been seeing. Very consolidative overall. Again, stuck within this overall box. Not a pair that I'm actively trading at the moment. Going into USDJPY. USDJPY obviously has not moved as fast as the other pairs because you're trading two, let's say, stronger pairs against each other last night. So obviously the dollar appreciated in value after those missile attacks, and then obviously the Japanese yen and the Swiss franc also appreciated. That's why dollar yen didn't move as hard. Overall, USDJPY, what are we looking for? I'm looking for some further potential downside in the near future to take out these ascending lows that we have here. So what I'll be looking at is this area of supply, these imbalance candles for a potential sell-off in towards the downside. So once the market retraces in towards that supply zone, I'll be keeping an eye open for potential shorting opportunities to take out these ascending lows, as simple as that. Going into dollar Swiss also took a hit last night. When it comes to this pair, I'll definitely wait with taking any new entries on this until the current fractal high breaks. If the current fractal high breaks, fine, we can look for long, otherwise just stay out. For now, only shorts are the thing that make sense. We do have some nice descending highs here. Let's see what happens once we break the current fractal high. But overall, on the, let's say, daily time frame, really want to break the current fractal high before looking for longs. Otherwise, this supply zone remains in control. I can just push the market down lower. And of course, we have gold. Gold pushed up higher, as I mentioned, and as I've also been mentioning for weeks, only looking for gold longs as we're currently in the impulsive phase since this low was set at 31.21. So within this overall orange box, only looking for longs. Now, order flow has been holding beautifully on gold as of yesterday and the day before. Here we can see sub for the buy and control. Here we can see sub for the buy and control. And then here again, we can see sell before the buy is currently here. What I'm looking for on gold is again just further upside. So I'll be looking at the 1 hour time frame to see what happens here. We need kind of like to see some reaccumulation happen very, very soon. The only thing that I have with gold is that we're leaving a lot of ascending lows behind, guys. So we have these lows, again, these ascending lows. So preferably, I would have just long from this area of demand. I would definitely see some kind of like liquidation event happen in the near-term future before looking to scale into new buy positions once again. So do keep it in mind, not looking for any shorts at all, but I'll definitely be looking for longs once we form kind of like some solid support. Preferably, I want to be inside of an area of demand on the 4 hour before looking for a long position. So let's wait and see if we can drop a little bit more and then wait for the reaccumulation, maybe some manipulation, and then we'll look to get involved with some long positions once again. But for now, the immediate time from here on the 15-minute is in towards the downside. But let's say we see a double fractal breaking towards the highs. Obviously, the bias can change and you can get into some short-term longs potentially once again. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wish you all a fantastic trading day. Thanks for all the support and all the kind messages that I've received. Make sure to leave a comment in the comment section down below and see you soon.